Next up, the past several weeks have given producers multiple days of heat and high wind that have resulted in crops using higher volumes of water than usual. Many growers may start their center pivots early to include fertilizer or herbicide treatments. But aside from these non-irrigation applications, how much water will your corn need while in the vegetative growth stage? Market Journal's Bill Dodd recently spoke with Extension Educator Steve Melvin to get the answer.
Hot summer days can be fun for getting out on the water and grilling out with friends and family. However, when it comes to irrigating your crops, those hot summer days may become another obstacle to deal with. While many producers may already be irrigating due to soil conditions, there are a number of things to keep in mind when determining whether or not to make it rain.
Well, it is always a challenge to figure out how much water needs to be put on with irrigation at any time of year. And vegetative is certainly not any different on a year when it's hot and dry like this. You need to keep in mind those smaller corn plants do not have the leaf area to give out as much water as a fully developed corn plant. And so it's quite a little less than most guys think. Again, the only way to know exactly how much to put on is to monitor how much water is remaining in the soil. And then keep in mind that if the field was irrigated a year ago, it's probably at a field capacity when you planted, and so each day the roots are growing into another inch or so of water, soil that's at field capacity, and so it's getting a lot of its water, if not most of it, from just the roots growing deeper into the soil, assuming we've got a deep soil. Of course, on a sandy soil or a shallow soil, for some reason, that's a different situation. You may very well need to be irrigating pretty already, so.
Making determinations on when to irrigate your crop can be greatly aided with technologies such as soil water monitoring equipment. However, if you're not equipped with such tools and are seeing some moderate levels of moisture stress such as leaf rolling, things may not be as bad as they look.
Well, by far and away, the best one is to have some soil water monitoring equipment out in the field and keep an eye on those numbers. And there's a lot of people do that and then know pretty much what they need. If you don't have that, it's a lot bigger of a challenge. But certainly you can have some leaf rolling in the afternoon, fairly significant on a hot, windy day, and not really expect any yield changes, come fall versus if you would have went ahead and irrigated.
One solution that is offered to save a bit of water and money is the water miser strategy. Reducing irrigation cost and lowering pumping are two important reasons to consider allowing moderate moisture stress on vegetative corn. Concurrently, some reports have also indicated that low levels of moisture stress have been conducive to lower levels of green snap as well.
The water miser strategy is a strategy that we came up with a number of years ago, which basically focuses on saving water during the vegetative period, and by allowing a little bit of drought stress, not a lot, but a little bit during the vegetative stage, but then fully watering the crop during its sensitive time from the right at tassel or just before through early grain fill. That's when corn is most sensitive to drought stress, and we really need to focus all of our energy for irrigation right around that time period. Well, when we've worked with this strategy in the past, we've had some fields that were watered. We had a fully watered strategy where we were keeping the corn, all the water it wanted and growing really quick. And then, the water miser, which wasn't putting water on during that vegetative stage, where we've had a significant amount of green snap with that corn that was fully watered because it's growing really fast. It's really tall and brittle, and the what hasn't had quite as much water as it might wanted wasn't nearly as tall and nearly as brittle. And so, significant difference of green snap right side by side on those fields. So it's certainly, fully watering a corn crop all the way through the vegetative stage. If you get that windstorm that you hope you don't get in a thunderstorm or something, it certainly can be far more devastating if you're really keeping the corn growing very quickly versus allowing it to slow down a little bit with a moderate drought stress.
In order to further illustrate results, Steve pointed me to a study from the year 2000 that showed how there was very little effect on overall yield when crops were exposed to minimal moisture stress during the vegetative state.
That's been a few years ago, but it certainly illustrates the point that corn during vegetative stage is not that sensitive to some drought stress. And the strip on the left shows, very stressed corn. In fact, there were some leaves, edge of the leaves burned back, and And when it got to be harvest time, it was 206 versus the corn that was on the other side that had been watered about a week before that. A lot more growth, a lot nicer and greener. Things were looking phenomenally better. But when it got to be harvest time, the yield statistically was the same on both strips. And so it just illustrates that point that during vegetative stage, corn is just not very sensitive to drought stress. I wouldn't encourage anybody to let their corn get that dry before they irrigate it. But, it certainly, we were doing a small plot thing experiment, but certainly emphasizes that some leaf rolling on hot afternoons is not going to affect the final outcome of the yield.
In areas with sandy or shallow soils, producers may need to irrigate more than others. However, it would be prudent to keep in mind that research has shown low to moderate levels of moisture stress during the vegetative stage usually won't lower yields too much, if any. So, feel free to save that water for a not-so-rainy day. Reporting for Market Journal, I'm Bill Dodd.